Alright everybody, welcome back to the Big Blue Dynasty series here on Madden 24. We are now in the 2025 offseason, and the Giants fell short, losing in the divisional round. It was a tough one. It was a great matchup against those Saints, but I feel like we still got a lot left in the tank now because this team is quite young. I think we can do some really nice things here, and I'm looking forward to this upcoming free agency. We got about 21 million in available cap space. We got to take into account our draft class as well, so I don't see us getting too crazy on initial pickups. I see us trying to keep some of the players that we currently have on the roster here now. So when you look at this right here, we got about 17 players up for negotiation. That will get us to about, what is that, 43? What is that? That'll get us to about 46 if we don't sign anybody. So, you know, we still got some room, and I'm definitely looking forward to this upcoming season here. We're an 80 overall team from an OVR standpoint, so we got some things to work on, right? JMS hurt most of the year. Definitely didn't like how that came about, but you know, we're gonna have to work through that. Another thing I decided to do is permanently move Evan Neal to right guard. He had a very, very good year for us, only gave up 1 sack. And I think from a seasonal standpoint here, the sacks that happened, you know, he gave it up in the wild card and the divisional round, and then gave up one in week 16. These were some days where we decided to move him at right tackle, so he gave up some at the end. When he played right guard, he was legit. So I think what we're going to have is Illuminor playing that backup role if we can't find one. The reason why I say Illuminor more of a backup is because this was a tough season for Illuminor. He gave up 13 sacks this year. It was kind of rough. When you look at it, you take away the fiver though from the Steelers. You take away maybe a couple of those twos. It wasn't a bad year. That fiver really killed him. He would have only had 8 sacks, so that's actually not that bad of a season. So I've got to think about the tackle scenario there. I think Runyon had a good year, but he also was hurt. So we got to figure out how all these pieces are going to work out along the way. The tight end group definitely is in need, right? We got Stoll, who's currently up for re-signing. We do got Bellinger, so I have to figure out how all that's going to work there. And Kager's up for re-signing too. So do we retool the tight ends with some younger crew? Do we draft some? That could be a possibility there. For the wide receiver crew, Wan'Dale Robinson was going to be a huge gem for us. But what happened to Wan'Dale Robinson? He got freaking hurt. And that really killed him. When you look at this season, man, it was heading in the right direction, but he only played 13 games truly. 2 of those games he was hurt. So you take away those, it's like 11 games he only played. And I need a whole lot more from him. So, you know, when I look at that, I could see some possibilities here. If you take away that or add a couple games, extrapolate, he was on track for at least 750 yards. That would have been sweet to have him there. Wan'Dale Robinson isn't necessarily a guarantee to be on this team for the long haul, so we have to think about other pieces here. And the rookie Malachi Corley, to me, had a very, very good year for us. Although he only had 391 yards, when he needed the catch, he made the catch. It was sweet, and he was available for all 17 games. So that's the kind of stuff that I look at right there. Now, you know, Marvin Harrison Jr. was a couple yards short of 1,200 yards, which sucks, but I didn't want him getting hurt late in the game, in the year. It was like the last game didn't really matter as much. He had 67 receptions, 1,180 yards, 15 touchdowns, an incredible year for Marvin Harrison Jr. So we have our true number 1 guy, but we have to think about all the other pieces, right? Like, does Jalen Hyatt work out? Does Wan'Dale Robinson finally stay healthy? We need to find other pieces along the way. So maybe we snag up one in the off season, or maybe we look to draft a couple more wide receivers in this upcoming draft. But we got to work through that. As far as running backs are concerned, I loved the 3-headed monster. Devin Singletary actually did very well for us. When you look at how he played, he had 1,000 yards. We had a 1,000-yard running back, and it didn't even feel like it. Considering he only had 244 attempts, it wasn't that crazy. He really trekked his way through, right? He had a couple fumbles, but the guy broke a ton of tackles this year. So I'm really hoping that Devin Singletary continues to be that 2-down back. But another guy that I really loved on this team, and he didn't have a whole lot of tread on his tires this year, was J.K. Dobbins. 73 attempts, and he had 400 yards. So if this guy would have had double his attempts, estimation, he could have had over 800 yards and 10 tutties. That's pretty good for a guy who had Achilles and ACL injuries. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then Eric Gray, I think this is the year where I may see this guy having a couple more downs. He had 41 attempts, 230 yards, and a touchdown. But man, he was actually pretty clean at times. I thought he actually ran very well when he did have the ball in his hands. So we got to work through that. And a guy that I do have on the practice squad where he's going to be fighting for a spot is Tyrion Davis-Price, who's on our practice squad. But this guy has some abilities, man. I think he could be something special. Might be able to overtake it, or maybe we roll with Tyrion Davis-Price and maybe trade JK. Who knows? That could be a possibility. When you look at the defensive side, there's a lot to be grateful for. Kayvon Thibodeau had a very good year. Brian Burns balled out. And then we got to think about, are we going to extend Azeez Ojulari? The defensive line, we got Mike Donna, we got DeMarcus Lawrence, and Dorless played okay. But we do have some pieces here. Drake Jackson has one more year, who I think he can be okay as a depth piece, maybe be more a part of the rush package. And Kingsley Keke, who we traded for, we have to decide, are we going to extend him? So the D-line is kind of up in the air right now. We do have Riley, we have Fedarian, we have DJ Davidson, Fedarian Mathis. So the D-line still needs some work. The corners, I'd like to see a little bit more now, as Hawkins has stepped up in a way that I need to know. I have to think about, is he our true outside corner? Do we let Cordell Flott take a shot at it, or do we bring in the second year DeMarcarian Richardson to have a shot at playing on the outside? He's 6'2", 188, very good speed, plays good man coverage. How can he work there? I'd say DeMarcarian Richardson has been a very good piece for us from a special team standpoint. When you look at how he played, I believe he had a couple blocks. They might show it there, yeah. So you from a deflection standpoint, it wasn't bad, but look at that, he had 2 blocks this year. So I think this Ole Miss alum, could be a really nice piece to have, and maybe we try to test him in the preseason, see if maybe he can, take a shot at being a corner too. Now, Cordell Flott, I really don't know. I feel like this guy can move up, but he has not been that great. As far as the linebackers are concerned, right, we got Burns and Kayvon doing great. Okereke kicking butt. Micah McFadden, I need to think about, does Darian Beavers finally take a step forward this year? And can he truly be that backup for us? He had 211 downs this year. He was out a game due to an injury. I got to think about, consistency in that interior linebacker role. But I definitely have to figure out, what are we going to do with the outside linebackers, because that's one of the issues we dealt with this year, is potential injuries. So Travis Gibson, I think we might get a chance to have a couple more downs this year, as I'd like to have fresher ones coming through those drives of Kayvon and BJ. Now Azeez with Burns and Kayvon, but we need to figure out with Azeez Ojulari here, because I need to think about, is he going to be a depth piece, and are we willing to pay for him? The safety crews, I think Owens had a pretty decent year. I think Pinnock had a decent year. The issue is Pinnock had such a year where there is an opportunity where this man can get paid somewhere. He had over 100 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, a sack, 4 picks this year. He had a fumble recovery this year, and I think this guy is a very special player, but we don't have the cap space to keep everybody. So if we do that, do we bring in another safety to rock with us? You know, I think Ronnie Harrison, we may have him for one more year. Now, does he take, yeah, we do. Does he take a step forward? But Javarius Owens, to me, he's played very good as a safety. I'm wondering if we kind of stick with him, or do we kind of continue to retool this safety crew here? So I like my team. You know, I think our guys are pretty special. We got to figure out, you know, how to kind of keep everyone together, because I do want to take another run at this thing. But there is a chance, a huge chance, that we go for a quarterback, because Daniel Jones, in the beginning of the year, I was going, wow, this is going to be fun. This is going to be really, really fun, right? Like, he had some, like, the first 3 games, he had 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. Then the Buccaneers game happened, and all of a sudden, DJ went back to 2-1. He had 1 game against the Saints that was kind of a blowout, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. But as you can see, he didn't throw multiple 3 touchdown games that often. He had 1, 2, 3 multiple, like, over 2 touchdown games. That's not good. I need more. So Daniel Jones, more than likely, there's a chance that we can cut him, or we could trade him. But as you can see, if we did that, we would be down negative 28.2 million, and we'd split the 69 million per year, but that would be very, very rough. So we have to think about that. If we decide to do that, all the other players that we would like to bring in, we won't be able to. So maybe DJ stays on the team for another year, and then we just kind of roll with him and just say, hey, it is what it is. He'll be a backup. He's just going to be eating our money, and then we decide to draft, or we bring in another vet. Which is kind of crazy, but I think with the team that we have, there's a shot. So I got to think about what we do. I'd love to continue to grow this O-line, because, you know, I think if we can have this in order, the quarterback won't be that much of an issue there. I just need a guy who can just throw the ball when he needs to. I don't need to be a superstar. Time manager will suffice. So we're going to head now to the re-signing period here and think about these negotiations and extensions. So it looks like Kayvon Thibodeau is up for a 5th-year option, and 100% I am willing to do it. I think he's a good player. He's worth it, and I'm really happy we took that chance. Evan Neal, he's asking for $11.5 million, 10.4 guaranteed. So that'll be a huge chunk available to him. But the positive is, if we did that, he would, he'd be a pretty cheap deal if he succeeds. My thing is, giving a 5th-year option to Evan Neal, is it truly worth it? I don't think so. I think we got some other pieces like Christian Haynes and Dominic Pooney that can really roll with him. So I think with Evan Neal, I'm cool with keeping him for now, but I don't necessarily think he's going to be the end-all be-all in that piece there. With $22 million in cap space, I'm thinking about Azeez Ojulari, who's not asking for a whole lot. He's looking at about $4 million a year. And is $4 million a lot of money? Yeah, it can be. But could he do well for us as a depth piece? I don't know. I got to think about that. He's got good stats and everything. He wants to play for us, but I'm not willing to pay. I'd go down to maybe $3.5 million, maybe. If he wants to play for us, I'd say this and then this, but we'll see if he takes it. So he's going to head to free agency, which I wish him the best of luck there. I may try to bid for him there, but I'm not going for anything more than that. Now, we got Jason Pinnock. You got David Bell there. Kingsley Kiki is asking for $5.16 million. I'd say that's not bad for a guy, but I although we traded for him, I may be okay with moving on. Joshua Azudu is currently up right now. He's not asking for a whole lot of money. Being a backup is still pretty good with Pooney there. I think Azudu played all right, but I'm okay with kind of cutting bait and seeing how that works out. So we'll let him go. I think Kingsley Kiki, as much like as if he's willing to take a cheaper deal, awesome. But I'm not trying to pay. I'll give him 4.5 million. He's down for that, but it's not going to be that easy to kind of bring these guys in. Isaiah McKenzie had a very good year for us as far as returning yards were concerned. I think Isaiah McKenzie was a good vet for us, and he did well. He had 1,100 yards, 1 touchdown, 48 kick returns, and then he had a punt return as well for 88 yards. So he's not a bad freaking player, but we do have some other pieces here that could play punt returner. Specifically, we could take a shot at Eric Gray to be that again. I could see myself even saying, you know what, let's get freaking Wan'Dale Robinson back there. Let's see what he could do with the ball in his hands. Or, we could try to take a chance on maybe a corner or something like that. So $6.32 million divided by 2, so about 3.15, a little over that. It's not bad, 3.16. Not a bad offer, but at 30 years old, do we do that for just him being a returner? Because he didn't really do much for catching, and he did regress quite a bit. So I think we're gonna pause on that one. Maybe we come back to him, but I'm not really seeing much there. Tyron Hopper, I'm cool with bringing him back. He's a good depth piece for us. I think a 3-year deal here, because he was a rookie. And this is the thing that I'm not a fan of, is that the game does not take into account moving him in practice squad, but he does have he was a draft pick. So, I'll spend a little money on that. It is what it is there. Let's see, Drew Lock. No, thank you. We'll let him test and figure that out. Jordan Riley. Again, this is one of those ones where the game doesn't know what it's doing, and it continues to do weird things. So I'm going to try to bring him back for like a 2-year deal for 3.5 maybe. I think we're going to let Jordan go, because DJ Davidson is not bad, and we can probably look at somebody else. Now, Lawrence Kager, if he didn't drop that much from a regression standpoint, he did not drop at all. I think Lawrence Kager is sneaky. He's got some speed to him. When he caught the ball, he did what he needed to do, and he's available. I think that's another thing. When he's out there, like when you need him, he'll play. So he only missed 1 game this year. So for $3 million, a little over $3 million, $3.5 million, I think this is a fair deal. And I'm glad to bring him back here. Lawrence Kager back with the New York Football Giants. Trying to think of some other guys here. Jack Stoll. He was a good blocking tight end. $2.5 million per year. 27 years old. Do we bring him back? I'm going to try to test it and maybe bring him back in the offseason free agency. Maybe he decides to stick with us. Aaron Stiney. He wasn't a bad player. I am looking at trying to make sure we have good backups here. And Stiney is very smart. He knows he's a good veteran. He's played on winning franchises. So for a 1-year deal, could that work out? Maybe. But again, we don't got much. We got 16 million in available space. We might have to wait that out. Austin Johnson, we're gonna let walk. Chris Manhertz, we're gonna let walk. And then, do we bring back Jamie Gillen for a year? I think not. And the reason why I say that is Jamie Gillen actually averaged very poorly. The dude doesn't punt that hard. So he had 14 touchbacks this year. 60 was his length. Like, that's the shortest since freaking 2020 with the Browns. So I think we're going to have to find another punter here, which is cool. So the only thing that I'm looking at now is we're going to go ahead and reject that 5th year. Could bring back Pinnock. It's a little over, that's like 3.8 million. 3.9 million a year for a veteran safety. I think that's fair right there. 26 years old. I'm willing to bring him back. He's willing to come back. Let's see here. Oh, he's going to test the free agency. He did not like that offer there. We just adjusted, tried to give him more money guaranteed up front, but no luck there. David Bell, he's young, but I think I got some guys I can lean on there. So we did not bring back a lot of players here in the initial part, but it is what it is. You got to be cool with that, and wish those guys the best there. So to summarize, there were only 3 players we decided to bring back: Tyron Hopper, Kayvon Thibodeau for a 5th-year option, and Lawrence Kager for about $3.3 million a year. They're good tight end 2, potential tight end 3 if we can find something better to go alongside Bellinger, but I don't think that's a bad move there. We now head to the offseason free agency. So we currently have 50 players on our roster. Definitely interested in seeing what we need to improve. Quarterback, center, and corner are the top 3 needs, it looks like, based on this game telling us. But I think we got some other pieces we have to definitely be concerned about. So as far as available players, there are some very, very good players out there. You're talking about, let's talk about just position. Trevor Lawrence has left the Jags, and he is looking for a home. He is looking at a 4-year deal for about $100 million. $102 million is his expected value. Looks like one team is currently interested in him right now, but that would be pretty cool to have. Could we bring in Trevor Lawrence to compete? The issue is with Trevor is that he never really had a very, very good year. Like, you would think he would be the best, right? He had some incredible college highlights, but he just kind of crapped the bed with most of his seasons. Never cracked 30 touchdowns. He had 2 seasons with over 4,000 yards, but it was rough. You know, Trevor Lawrence in the 2024 season, he was hurt for most of the year. He was on track for an incredible season, and then he just got smoked. So, and even then, when you look at the average, he was 164.3 yards per game. Like that, like he had touchdowns, but he didn't have much. So Trevor Lawrence is the hot QB out there because he's young. You could mold him into something special maybe, but man, oh man, how could that work out? It looks like Russell Wilson is a free agent once again. He's hoping to kind of break the bank somewhere. And Russell Wilson is not a bad QB. He's currently a 74 overall QB. Last season, 28 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, 4,100 yards, 68 completion percentage, 245 yards per game. So I don't think it was that bad. He ran a little bit as well. So, you know, when you see something like that in Russell Wilson, you go, could we rock with him? 88 throw power. Could he be like a guy to just kind of hold the fort until something else happens? Like, let's say we draft a QB. Maybe. There are some other cheaper options, right? You could look at Sam Darnold here. He's no longer with the Vikings. You got Mac Jones. You could go with him. He's no longer with the Jaguars. Could you take a chance on him and let Mac Jones kind of be a cheap deal and work through that? Maybe. You got Huntley out there. You got Jake Browning was a decent backup. Maybe we could kind of steal him for something. Looks like Aiden O'Connell's no longer with the Raiders. Derek Carr is out there. Could we rock with Derek Carr? He's still got decent throw power. His accuracy is okay. You know, could we grab Derek Carr for a year? That wouldn't be a bad move. So now it looks like the halfback situation is kind of interesting. Nick Chubb is no longer with the Browns. A lot of teams love him. Looks like 8 teams are chasing him. He's 29 years old, little older here, which is why I feel like the game should be really reluctant to grab there should be less offers and less amount of money. But, you know, Derrick Henry did get a decent bag at his age with the Ravens, so not too sure. Javonte Williams would be very fun to have. Javonte Williams, to me, is a good plotter, 5'10", 220. He'd cost a lot of money, but the way I look at it with him is that you could just take him and swap him with J.K. Dobbins if I wanted to, but, you know, have a year younger guy. Jalen Warren's out there. You got Chuba Hubbard, no longer with the Panthers. Elijah Mitchell would be fun coming from the Niners, but we got Tyrion Davis-Price. I'm kind of cool with that. A.J. Dillon back out there again. Khalil Herbert, Kenneth Gainwell, Michael Carter. There's some pretty good freaking running backs out there, and some running backs want to play for us. Could we change the landscape in that backfield? Maybe. Look at that. Panthers have no running backs. They let go of Miles Sanders too. So, it looks like they're trying to reset that backfield there. When it comes to wide receivers, boy, oh boy, there are some pretty freaking good ones. Jerry Jeudy, no longer with the Browns in this series. Looks like he's gonna try to test the free agent market, see what happens there. Keenan Allen, no longer with the Bears. He was a one-year reserve. He's a little older, but man, having a good veteran, maybe combined with freaking Harrison. Could we get a steal there? Maybe. Brandon Ayuk, he doesn't want to play with us. He doesn't like the taxes, but Brandon Ayuk paired up with MHJ would be an incredible pair for whoever becomes our quarterback. But if we did this, we would not have any money for anything else. I'd have to probably start looking at restructuring a tons of contracts. So that's got to be rough there. Rondale Moore, no longer with the Falcons. He'd actually be a guy that would be pretty fun, because with Rondale Moore, he's got similar maneuverability like Wan'Dale Robinson, but he'll probably be a lot more healthier. So, he's a little smaller, but man, he could be very, very fun to have on this team. Looks like Kadarius Toney trying to find a new home now. So there's some decent wide receiver options there. Tight end is the space that I am worried about, and there is a guy here that could be pretty good coming over from a winning culture in the Kansas City Chiefs, Noah Gray. Good speed on him, decent catching ability, actually very good catching ability. Guy knows how to block, and he knows how to win. So, this is a guy that could be very interesting for us, looking at $7 million a year. Maybe we could try to grab him for cheaper. Who knows? But there's some pretty okay tight end free agents out there. Looks like there's a couple tackles out there that are, know the game very well. And this is where I'm going, man, we need to have some depth there, because it sucked when people started getting hurt. Andrew Thomas being one of them. There are some pretty good left guards out there. Kendrick Green is one of them. You got some other vets here that we could probably look at as possibilities. And here's the spot here, man. Ryan Jensen, I saw the storyline. He is available. Dude is a one-year rental, 34 years old. But if we had him locked down at center, I don't have to worry about that space ever again. We could also bring in David Andrews to mentor JMS. You got Connor McGovern there. We could bring back Nick Gates if we wanted to be a good backup for JMS. Feliciano as well. These are players that were once a giant. Right guard is out there. Do we let go of Evan Neal? And if so, do we just kind of go ahead and try to snag up another guy to kind of tool it? But I think we got two good young guards that could step up if we need them to. But right tackle is where I'm trying to figure out the way to spend it if we decide to do that, right? Rob Havenstein, 33 years old, former Los Angeles Ram. He is an older guy. This is a rental, but Havenstein is a pretty good freaking player. He could do all the things we need him to do. He's asking for $15 million. Could we rock with him? I'm not quite sure, but there are some backups here that I'd be cool with too. Left end, Sam Hubbard. Very good player from the Bengals. He's just a little older, right? You got Dramont Jones. You got some other cats out here. The first player in green that would like to play with us would be Lancaster as a backup. Romeo Quara. You got some Kingsley Kiki would like to play for us, so maybe we can get him back for a cheaper deal there. You look at defensive tackle. When Dexter Lawrence is out there, it's great, but I need somebody else to kind of hold it down. And, it would be nice to to have some players we can trust. And Ali McNeil at 25 years old looks like a fun player here. We could bring back veteran BJ Hill, former Giant, kind of rock through it. And then you look at, you know, the other side here. There's some pretty good players. You got Sweat, Omanihu. You got Malcolm Kuntz that would like to play for us. Okwara brothers look like they want to be Giants. That would be kind of a neat story there. But there's some okay guys there. Linebackers. Aziz would love to play for us. So, you know, maybe we can try to go back and try to grab him for a cheap deal. But I'm not going to try to break the bank with some of these guys. I need to fill some spots. And I need to make sure we're going to be okay. Devin White no longer with the Eagles. That experiment's over, and looks like Dotson's experiment's over with the Seahawks. You got Shaq Thompson. You got Devin Bush, who wants to play for us. Mosley, Landman. There's some pretty good veteran middle linebackers. Right outside linebacker, Shaq Barrett. You know, nice little reserve right there. $5 million. We could probably go for him. We could just say, you know what, let's snag up a dude here, Marcus Davenport, to kind of rock with us. And he's a scheme fit. Can play over Travis Gibson. Can play defensive end in some scenarios too. So there's some versatility there. And you're looking at corners now, and this is a surprise. AJ Terrell is no longer with the Falcons. Man, we could just upgrade our game right here and just say, you know what? I'm going to take freaking AJ Terrell, $20 million, and I'll be done with the free agent market. We got our corner set, and we move on. I don't know if I would do that. It'd be fun. It'd be quick. Okay, we're out of there, but I think we got to be smart here. Paulson Adebo, I think he played pretty good with the Saints, and him alongside, I think that would be interesting there. Him alongside Banks. Corners are set, which allows us to have Trey play on the outside as a backup, but also play in the slot. But we do have Avonte Maddox too, so we got to think about all of our cap issues or cap possibilities there. There's some okay corners, but you know, I'd be cool with looking at depth more than anything else. D. Alford, you know, that's a guy that comes to mind there. I could see maybe like a Mike Hughes or something like that, or even Marco Wilson. He was a guy I was looking at for a trade. He wants to play for us, kind of. He wouldn't be a bad move at this point here. So at corners, but we could upgrade the free safety role, right? Safety role, right? We got Jabril Peppers out here, pretty good freaking player. Xavier Woods can help out with Javarius Owens. You know, there's some guys here that we could bring in and kind of just help with that free safety possibility there, because we still got Ronnie Harrison on the team too. You got Jimmy Ward out there, Donovan Wilson, Jordan Poyer would like to play for us. He's a little slower, but he's still a very good vet. You got Pinnock, who's out there right now, doesn't really want to play for us, doesn't have a scheme fit, so he's going, hey, I'm not really going to flourish there, so what's the point of bringing me in? So we do have to fill these spots up, man. This is key. We got to make sure we bring in some pieces along the way. We need a punter. That's another thing. And it looks like, you know, Ryan Stonehouse would like to punt for us. He's going to cost us a little bit of money, but I'm cool with looking at good punters. Guys that are truly going to flip the field for us and really make a difference. You know, you got a guy here. His net is 43 though. Like in Denver, like what are we doing? Ryan Stonehouse's, what is his average? 46.3. So we got to think about this one. But I want someone who can freaking boot the living daylights out of it. Ooh, Ethan Evans here, 24 years old. 46. So everyone's kind of averaging what Gillen did. That's why they're out here, folks. You can't be a not so great punter and not expect to keep your job. There he is, Matthew Hayball. So, you know, that's a guy right there we'll look at. So we'll kind of keep tweaking along the way. But those are the free agents that are out there, and we will go ahead and fast forward to the free agents that we have, that we snag up at this time. You know, who do we get to set us up for the draft? So we have finished our signings, and we'll go ahead and do a recap here and just see who went where. As far as our signings are concerned, I think we really snagged up some really interesting players. At quarterback, we were able to get a steal here in Russell Wilson. He's a 74 overall player. He still has a decent throwing power at 88. His short accuracy is there along with his medium, and his deep can make it work. Decent awareness, good under pressure, and he still has his speed along with his stamina and toughness. We were able to get him for $2.5 million. The reason why I made that move there is because he still has a chunk of change from the Denver Broncos. So being able to still get a discounted deal here still works out for Russell Wilson. You split that cap and he gets a ton of change up front, so we could still see if we can ride with him till he retires. So this is a nice bridge QB scenario here, as I do not feel like Russell Wilson can do it alone, and this still gives us an opportunity to draft a QB in this upcoming 1 year. When it came to wide receivers, I felt like I didn't really need much outside of a punt returner, and Jamal Agnew is the guy. He's got 95 kick return, decent speed on him. We didn't need to give him a whole lot of guaranteed money. We signed him to a 2-year deal for $2.8 million, and that is a steal for a punt return specialist. We also went after a tight end here, spent a little bit more money, about $16.5 million for 3 years. $9 million of that, 16 is guaranteed. Noah Gray, coming over from a championship culture. I think this is a guy here that can pair up with Daniel Bellinger and Lawrence Cager and be pretty solid. Doesn't mean we still stop and not draft a tight end as well. So there's still that flexibility for us here. We went after a backup center because I needed someone who's reliable, that can take over for JMS just in case he gets injured, and that is Nick Gates. So Nick Gates played with us with the Giants prior to the previous year. He was with the Commanders, and I think Nick Gates can do something solid for us. Nothing too crazy, just enough to hang in there until JMS returns, if he ever gets injured. Hopefully he doesn't for this year. We were then able to bring back Kingsley Keke for a deal of $5 million for 2 years, so $2.5 million total per year. A 70 overall guy, 27 years old, speed rusher. So he's a different archetype than our other guys. So with an 80 finesse, I think again we have some versatility on the D-line. As far as middle linebackers are concerned, we decided to bring in CJ Mosley here. I wanted to have veteran presence, and a 12-year vet here could really do some work for us. He doesn't have to start, but if he needs to, or if we feel like Micah McFadden isn't holding his own, CJ Mosley and Okereke will be a crazy duo. We then went after 2 linebackers here, Lorenzo Carter and Marcus Davenport. Marcus Davenport is a guy now who has gone to a couple different teams. He played for New Orleans for his rookie, where he was drafted. Then he played 1 year with Minnesota, and then he signed a deal with the Detroit Lions. He had 7.5 sacks last season. I think Marcus Davenport behind Kayvon Thibodeau too allows us to leverage another piece just in case to give Kayvon Thibodeau a little rest. We also grabbed a former Giant in Lorenzo Carter, who to me is a freaking steal. He's a speed rusher, which will put him into that proper archetype after this is all said and done. But Lorenzo Carter behind Brian Burns is still a nice move for us. We have versatility. Travis Gibson's still here for another year, but having Lorenzo Carter can still help us out. I think he's got enough in the tank. We only signed him for $300,000 guaranteed. Free safety, Javarius Owens was the only one on the depth chart for free safety, and I think having a scheme fit here in Lonnie Johnson is nice for us. Dude could still do some work. When you look at Lonnie Johnson's career, it isn't bad. He's 7 years in the NFL. He played with Houston his first 3 years, and then he went over to Tennessee for a year, went to New Orleans after that, and then Houston again. And he's available. So it doesn't mean that we're going to stick with Javarius Owens for the long term, but I like to have someone out there that could also help him out. That's a decent vet. And then we snagged up who I think could be the Pinnock replacement. Richie Grant, former Atlanta Falcon, 87 speed, 92 acceleration, good change of direction here. Been in the NFL for 5 years, has good zone coverage, great hit power, and I think the guy can stay on the field to really help us out. So I'm hoping Richie Grant is the solution for us. And then I snagged up Matthew Hayball here. He's 24 years old. He has 96 kick power, 77 kick accuracy. The main reason why I decided to bring him onto the team was that his average punt average, his average yards per punt was 50.8, which is almost 5 yards more than Gillen. So hoping he can work through it. He had a 71-yard freaking punt. 10 were inside the 10, 15 touchbacks. So I need someone who's a little younger that can boot it. We signed him for a 3-year deal with no guaranteed money. I think we did a great thing here. So entering the draft, we now have 61 players on the roster. And with 9 draft picks, this gives us an opportunity to get us to a cool 70 players on the roster heading into the next preseason. So I'm happy for it. I think we have some really good opportunities here. I think there's still an option to draft a couple different positions. Quarterback, free safety. You can even look at a center based on the needs that the QB, based on this screen is showing me here. But I think it's going to be pretty neat. We're going to check out the mock here. And as you can see, it looks like Shedeur Sanders is heading back to his former father's team in the Atlanta Falcons. They have Kirk Cousins there, but I think for them, they need to have a solution here. In real life, Michael Penix Jr. was that, but I think Shedeur Sanders could clearly get there, and that'd be not a bad move for them. Patriots having a QB already set. They're looking at a defensive tackle who looks to be the ridiculous freak in the interior defensive line in Walter Nolan. They got Harold Perkins going to the Rams, which I think could be a very nice move for them. Garrett Bowles was available in the was available for free agency, so it looks like the Broncos are taking him. Patrick Payton would be going to the Panthers there. So pretty good move there. This board is screaming a lot here, but what I'd like to see potentially is what happens with our pick, which Drew Alar looks to fall all the way to us. There were some huge signings across the league, and we'll talk about maybe the top 10. Nick Chubb is going to the Texans. He signed a 3-year deal. Brandon Ayuk also goes to the Texans. He signs a 4-year deal. So CJ Stroud is getting tons of help. And then the Texans signed AJ Terrell. Huge signings right there. The Texans are making a move. They want to freaking win one now. Keenan Allen goes to the Panthers to help out another youngster, right? He goes to the Bears to help out Caleb. Now he's going to the Panthers to help out Bryce. So pretty cool move there. Jabril Peppers heads to the Titans there to help out with their defensive back crew. Ryan Jensen beefing up the Cincinnati Bengals crew to allow them to get some help for Burrow. Scherf going to the Bucks. Stephon Gilmore to the Vikings. Paulson Adebo to the Seahawks. Javonte Williams, he's going to the Bengals. So they're looking for a pop over there. Hopkins goes to the Rams. You got Judy to the Panthers. So you got Judy and Keenan Allen going to the Panthers. Now, who is the big signing here? Trevor Lawrence is a Minnesota Viking. He signs a $100 million deal for 4 years. He's going to Minnesota, folks. And Mac Jones, I guess Peyton's just kind of throwing darts here, trying to figure out their QB, and it looks like Mac Jones is going to be the QB signing for the Denver Broncos. Weird on that one. Yeah, it looks like Hubbard goes back to the Panthers for a cheap deal. Interesting there. Tight end, it was Conklin going to the Commanders and Tremble, so they fixed that. Robinson to the Titans. Interesting. Kenyon Kendricken goes back to the Texans. So they signed him for probably a cheap deal there. Hubbard to the Commanders, so I got to deal with him twice a year. You got Pierce going to a AFC North rival. Ali McNeil's a steal. He's going to the freaking Titans. Noddy to the Bengals. What happened to BJ? Oh, BJ Hill's an end, I think. So it looks like Sweat is going to the Titans. And BJ Hill is available. We might be able to bring him back. Azeez Ojulari, we let him go, and he's heading to the Bengals. He got a little bit more money than we were willing to offer. We wish him the best of luck. Akeem Davis-Gaither goes to the Titans. Jamian Sherwood to the Panthers. Devin White back to the Buccaneers with no more Levante David there. Tyrell Dodson to the Raiders. Shaq Barrett back to the Bucks. Steal on that one. Less than a little over 5 there. But the Texans balled out. They signed a lot of freaking players. That is going to be insane. We wish them nothing. Ooh, Jeremy Chin going to the Falcons. Back to the NFC South there. That's kind of interesting. Cost much? 13 mil, a little over 7 mil a year. It's a little over 6. Yeah, I guess, yeah. A little over 6.5. Not bad. And then Pinnock goes to the Raiders, so we wish him the best of luck there. We were the only ones that signed a punter. I think that's a cool move, man. Our free agent market is set. I am super pumped. I'm definitely looking forward to the next episode here, which will be our draft. And I think our lineup right now, this is what it would look like. This is the projected lineup right now. I think the O-line looks pretty solid. We didn't change anything there. I think the wide receiver core, that's the same. The only difference is the new QB potentially there in Russell Wilson. So we're going to see that battle in the preseason, potentially a rookie as well. When you look at the defensive side, Richie Grant is the new face in the starting lineup there. I think the pair of Trey Hawkins and Banks will probably be there for a little bit. We got to see who's going to step up. The defensive line, I think the DT role is super needed right now. So we got to work through that. And as you can see, we got depth now in the middle linebacker spot, depth in the outside linebacker spot. This is going to be a fun one. So we'll see what happens along the way. But we'll stay tuned for the draft episode. We'll take our time on that one, kind of just watch that draft, see how it feels. But that'll do it for us today, everybody. If you like what you saw, please drop a like, leave a comment, tell me what you think, and most importantly, subscribe to keep up with the series. Looking forward to the 2025 season. And as always, let's go Big Blue.